Okay, so we have talked about discipline and why and when and how we do it, how we implement discipline. And when we were talking about how we discipline, we talked about having a spread of wanted and unwanted behaviours and how we respond to the individual aspects of that, and that really consequences were sort of held back for only a small portion. The more severe unwanted behaviours, this is when we start bringing in consequences. So they're not done that much, but when we do them, we need to do, of course, do them the right way. So when do we do consequences? Well, generally only over about the age of about 3, because children younger than that just don't get it. But from when they're old enough, we can start talking about consequences. And there's basically 3 types of consequences that work in descending order of effectiveness. You have natural consequences, which are the best. You have logical or related consequences, and then you have withdrawal privilege. So in descending order of usefulness. So natural consequences work the best. A natural consequence is a consequence where the behaviour leads to an outcome that without any parental intervention or input whatsoever. So that all the parent has to do is to just stay out of the way for the natural consequence to happen. So an example would be if you don't eat your dinner, you go to bed hungry. It could be if you leave your shoes out in the rain, you've got wet shoes. If you don't study for an exam, you fail. So the world is full of natural consequences, and parents of small children should be thinking, well, how can I allow them to happen? That obviously is not going to be harmful. You know, you're not going to let your child learn the natural consequences of running onto a busy road, for example. But so safety, obviously, but is always going to come first. But when the natural consequence is not too damaging and maybe can provide a teaching moment, then they're the ones that maybe we should let it happen a bit and sort of talk to the child about it afterwards, and so they make sure that they actually understand that that behaviour is what led to that unwanted outcome. Underneath natural consequences, we've got logical or related consequence, and this is where there is a little bit of parental involvement required for the unwanted behaviour to lead to the unwanted outcome. So it might be that if you don't have your dinner, you can't have your ice cream. It might be that if you make a mess, you've got to tidy it up. And this does require the parent to actually withhold the ice cream or to insist that the mess is tidied up. So it's not quite as good as natural consequence, because a child's focus might shift from, oh, duh, I shouldn't have made a mess, or duh, I should have eaten my dinner. They shift from that to mum's being mean. So that's why the message can not be such a good teaching moment, not quite as good, but it can still be good, and we should still try and do them. Below that, we then have losing a privilege. Now this is the one that everyone rushes to, does too much, over the top, on the fly, unplanned, and often not even implemented. They can be useful, but they have to be done the right way. So with losing a privilege is, the over the top and on the fly is like, you're furious, like you're grounded forever, you're never having this phone back again, I'm never letting you go to that girl's place again because you did this X, Y, Z. So those sort of over the top reactions can it's much better to have it all planned, that both the parent and the child know that if this particular unwanted behaviour happens, this losing of a privilege happens, and that's when it works best. So when we're doing these consequences, we need to be consistent, particularly between siblings, for example. We should pre-warn, if possible, that this is going to happen. We need to keep the consequence small. We need to deliver the consequence hopefully promptly, with a caveat that we're calm when we do it. We should keep our commentary to a minimum, that really it should be pretty obvious that this is why the consequence is happening, and we don't have to go into detail to explain it. It's better if you don't. And even if we're feeling really like super parent, we could even deliver it with a bit of warmth. I know that this is tough for you, I know you don't want this consequence, but that's the way it is, and let's just see if we can find something else to do. I can understand that you're finding it tough. What doesn't work? Well, we've talked about what does work. Let's talk about what doesn't work. Screaming doesn't work. Constantly explaining, repeatedly warning, threatening, pleading, bribing, arguing, hitting, smacking and hitting, giving in. These are all the things that don't work. And when I go through that list with parents, I'll often say, oh gosh, you're going to do that one, we do that one, we do that one. And most of us will do quite a few on that list at some various stages, myself included. And it's okay. As long as we're recognising that we're trying to not do so much of those, and we are trying to restrict appropriate consequences for the more extreme unwanted behaviours at the right time. And hopefully we will then be delivering consequences in an effective fashion.